Let's talk now about distribution patterns. How do we get things from one point to another? Easy, usually call a truck. That said, you're the one that actually is paying the truck driver, scheduling the truck driver. Truck driver doesn't work for you. That there's a whole series of things. Customer located in close proximity to each other, we tend to aggregate them into a grid network or other kind of clustering technique. For instance, one trucking agency, they have aisles for each different major city area. They even have an aisle, let's say for Atlanta, Georgia, but they don't drop off to one terminal Atlanta, Georgia. They drop off to a terminal that actually is a closer hub for other things outside of Atlanta all the way through that. So they're dropping off at an Atlanta hub, not just a terminal, but a hub. And that hub then will distribute stuff on top of that. So you may have one truck and then you sit there and drop it off, and then they may take the pieces off the truck and put it in different trucks for personal delivery or for other wholesale delivery or distributor delivery in the process. So you need to pay attention to the distribution pattern as to how you're going to organize your facility as to what your goal is. Are you direct to consumer? Are you direct to distributor? Are you direct to a final destination for one single customer? Another issue is, are your trucks, do you have a full 28,000 pounds on the truck, or do you have multiple different individual components on it? One major giant old trucking company called Yellow Freight just went belly up because they were known for breaking up pieces of one single semi truck trailer into multiple different shipments. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but that really led to overall its bankruptcy a couple of times. And this last time seems like it's gone forever in the process, and people are bidding for the pieces of this giant nationwide, actually, excuse me, worldwide company in the process. So the distribution pattern, the product type, that doesn't sound like much in the product type, but as soon as you start carrying chemicals that need to have some type of special EPA certification, you had better follow the rules exactly as they're written and designed. You do not want to have an acid spill inside your truck that eats through the floor bottom of the truck or eats through other products in the truck. You want to handle it exactly right. Product type is a big thing. If you're going to have hazardous materials in your truck, you got to make certain you have that. If you have hazardous materials in the air, on ship, train, whatever, you need to make certain you follow all the proper protocols. And to some extent, yes, you might get written up by a regulator. More importantly, you might actually have an accident on it that you'll regret because of the fact you didn't follow something really that you need to pay attention to. The distribution pattern, are you going to pick up at the same source, multiple sources? Where is your end destination in the process? All this is part of your calculations on a regular basis. So if the technology exists to solve the logistics network design problem, that'll still be out there, but have those data points to sit down, because every once in a while technology stumbles and some human has to kick in and actually do the work that has been done by a computer for a year or two in the process. Research report that when you start aggregating customers into 150 to 200 zones, usually you have no more than 1% error in the estimation of the local transportation costs. So if you start aggregating all the customers that'll be going into San Francisco, California, okay, into one region, all of a sudden you start consolidating things, and it becomes much easier to design loads for trucks headed in that same direction, or planes, depends how you have that process. So aggregate demand points into at least 200, whatever number you're going to use, okay, and then make sure the zone has an equal amount of the total demand. That's kind of an interesting way of doing it. So you want to then aggregate the products into 20 to 50 product groups. Sometimes you may have 100 things in the same product group, not usually, but the reality is you want to have product groups, and if they all really have the same weight or they have similar weights, all of a sudden now you start having really good strategies as to how you can sit down there and quickly load your different vehicles in the process to make sure you have great delivery process. So the next step in constructing the distribution model is to estimate the cost overall of the transportation. You start looking at what is the rate. That's going to include contracts with the different freight delivers. If you have employees, they calculate those costs, all the different aspects of maintenance in the process. You ever watch a UPS truck? A UPS truck, have you ever seen a dirty UPS truck? UPS trucks are always clean because they run in on a regular basis. They wash the vehicles top to bottom every night. That's a big challenge, costs a lot of money to do that, except if you look and check out the dates on some of the vehicles out there, you can kind of do that by checking the tail lights and seeing what year that tail light was manufactured, what model that manufacturers. You'll see UPS trucks on the road for 20 years. So that being said, gee, does that pay off to sit down and have super high maintenance on it? The answer is yes, yes, and yes again. All that needs to be considered in the actual running cost of all your vehicles, whatever they may be. So estimate that. This whole thing of less than truckload, LTL, that is a killer. If you can avoid having LTL in your industry, that really is tough. But if you have to do it, make certain you do it well. There's a lot of problems with that because of the fact you have different drop-off points, and you'll have different ways to drop things off in the process, and you have to be careful what you mix on that same truckload in the process. You'll also have to have some low bars on your truck. You'll also have to have different ways to protect shipments from each other, but with either cardboard or wood separating panels in the process. So LTL, it's fabulous for picking up additional work, except for the fact it's a huge challenge inside of a warehouse situation or in a trucking situation for scheduling. So make certain you know what LTL is. It's part of the slang of the industry for less than truckload. So that's on there. Also, here's a formula to estimate distances. That's really cute, except for the fact that distances don't really matter. The distances matter is how far you're traveling. You can sit down and estimate distances as the crow flies, so to speak, from point A to point B, except between point A to point B, maybe 27 miles, except the highways to get from point A to point B, maybe 35 and a half miles. And that's what you're going to actually use in the process. So that's a cute formula, and just keep it there. Some of the formulas in our book, I will question them, but I want them over here so I can explain them as we go through. You can also correct the Earth's curvature, or you can just go to a computer and type in the numbers, direct pathway from here to here, and it'll generate that out. So do not worry about this. It looks terrifying in the process. It really isn't. It's pretty straightforward, and you can do this easily on the simple scientific calculator, or easily certainly in your Excel spreadsheet. So that being said, it just depends what it is. Here's what I want you to know: handling cost. What is a handling cost? It's labor and utilities, all that sits out that's proportional to the annual flow through the warehouse. A fixed cost, all of those cost components that are not proportional to the material that flows through the warehouse. And then the storage cost, okay, so that represents your inventory holding cost. How much does it cost you to store that, and how long are you storing it? Those are three things you need to know, especially for this class. Inventory turnover, that's a pretty straightforward number. Annual sales divided by the average inventory level. You would like to have a high turnover ratio. The higher the turnover ratio, yes, you have more traffic, but here's a reality: your goods are always fresh. If you have a high turnover ratio, it's positive for you, positive for the customer, and that way it's not stagnating in your warehouse or anywhere in your system. Distribution patterns, always create consolidation points. That helps an awful lot. And some of it is just use the common sense factor in the process. Include similar products together. That helps a lot too. Customers and locations. Know your handling costs, fixed costs, and your storage costs. All these different points here will help you figure out your distribution pattern for high success, and also for this class. Take care.